Welcome back to Rides and Drives Team Radio. I am Kaz, and I am here, as always, with my father, Harvey. Now, today, we don't have a race this weekend, as we all know, and we kind of thought we've been talking the championship and driver moves to death. But there is one more angle with driver moves that leads us to a bigger conversation that we wanted to have. So we thought we'd talk today about the new car. Now, when we look at a lot of the moves that have been made in the silly season thus far, in particular Dixon to McLaren, we've talked about all of the reasons why Dixon might want to move. And we've talked extensively about how much Zach wants a 500, wants to win that racing triple crown all in the same season. And Dixon is a huge part of that. But there is one other thing. Well, there are a lot of other things, but this is an additional thing that Scott Dixon brings to the table. 24 years of experience with IndyCar, known for giving great feedback. And we are looking at a new vehicle coming very, very soon. So adding Scott to a team is a huge value piece there because he's going to give you wonderful, wonderful feedback and get you off on the right foot with that new car. So, new car.
Yeah, and the timing for this conversation is really good because unless they're changing the schedule, IndyCar has announced they will do their first tests on the IR28, this new Dallara platform, in the window between the Borchetta Grand Prix, the race in Nashville and the Portland Grand Prix. So we should see some actual car on track in the next few weeks here of the new car that we've been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for.
Yeah, this was announced quite some time ago, pushed back a few times, and it looks now like we actually are going to see it on track in 2028 and hopefully much,
Yeah.
much sooner for testing. At the very least, I would love a picture of this thing.
Yeah,
So,
we know.
since we're testing the chassis,
Yeah.
let's start with the chassis.
Okay, well, let's talk about it. I mean, we know that tubs had been delivered to Dallara in Indianapolis, so they have it, and they're working, putting them together. This new chassis, the main goals of this program were, first of all, to create a lighter car. All the drivers complained when the hybrid system came in, it added weight to the car. It added, more than 100 pounds to the car
Oof.
and only added 60 horsepower. So that's really not enough horsepower to offset a lot of that extra weight. And it changed the balance of the car. So they really wanted to make sure that that was lighter weight. They also wanted to improve the aesthetics of this car. People, especially when they added the aero screen, the car isn't a very beautiful race car. Let's just say that. And we all like a beautiful race car. So
Mhm.
starting with a clean sheet of paper, I think we're going to see a lower, more tapered nose on this thing. I also think, based on what Dallara has learned out of IMSA racing and other programs that they run, that we're going to see more ground effects on the car. So we're going to see more downforce created by that rather than relying completely on the wings for the downforce. So we could see some changes in wings that might create a more aesthetic look to the car. Obviously, some other things you're going to want to do while this is happening is you're going to want to look at safety issues on the car. So they'll improve things like side impact, lift, other things like that. Overall, though, the big thing everyone's looking forward to is a lighter, more rigid, more responsive chassis.
Excellent. I'm excited about the weight. I know that that's a complaint that I've heard frequently from drivers after the hybrid was added, that the extra weight just doesn't really know where to go. So this is great. We've got a lighter chassis. Now there are engine changes as well, and that
Yes.
hybrid system is still there, but in a little bit of a different form.
Right. Yeah, and this is going to be a whole new power plant. It's still a V6 twin turbo, but it's going to go from 2.2 liters to 2.4 liters. And one of the problems with the existing hybrid system is that it was bolted onto an existing engine. It
Hmm.
wasn't designed and packaged for the chassis, right?
Much like the aero screen on the current chassis was
Right.
just kind of
Just
added on.
added
It's
on.
not designed together.
Yeah, and that's another thing. The aero screen will be integrated into this
Hmm.
chassis much more organically. So that's great.
Hmm.
But going back to the engine, you're going to have a larger displacement. You're going to have the twin turbos. They haven't announced the turbocharger supplier yet. No reason to believe they're going to go anyplace new, but who knows? Um, the the hybrid system, they're looking to increase the power of deployment, the horsepower that you get from that, but they're not going to the extremes that Formula One did, right? This year, the Formula One gas to hybrid ratio is like 55 to 45, in terms of horsepower percentage. And in IndyCar, it's still, even when they increase this to, who knows, maybe 100, 125 horsepower out of the
Hmm.
electrical system, out of the electric system, that will make it maybe 85-15. So you're not going to have the extreme drop off when you spend all your available electric energy in the battery.
That should be really very reassuring to a lot of fans online. One thing that I see constantly as we're talking about a redesign is let's not chase F1. Let's
Yeah,
differentiate these cars, learn from whatever they're doing to be sure. And to be honest with you, I think F1 has not figured this out properly because watching cars lift at the end of the straight is super upsetting to me and
yeah,
counterintuitive to what racing is meant to be. Um, so I think that this should be really reassuring, knowing that we're still looking at a primarily gas-powered vehicle. We're just using the hybrid as an extra boost. And having it be
right.
built in does help with some reliability issues.
It should help reliability. It should help cooling
Hmm.
in that system. It should also just help with the overall packaging of the system, so they'll be able to make the body work sleeker. We're looking at things like maybe tighter side pods. That the area behind the driver might be more compact. I think we're going to see a much sleeker car overall with this change, even though the engine is getting bigger. And one of the other things, from a displacement standpoint, probably not
Hmm.
going to be that much bigger dimensionally, but one of the things that added displacement is going to give is more low end torque to this engine. So what we're going to see are better exit speeds out of slow speed corners, which will be
Okay.
really noticeable at places like Long Beach, coming out of that tight corner, going onto the front straight. We just saw Mid Ohio coming out of the keyhole there. They kind of get bogged down.
I'm
Um,
thinking about Road America out of turn 5 up the hill.
yeah, those places are where you're going to see more power that the cars are going to be able to use and put down to help increase those exit speeds, which should make the racing more exciting overall. One of the big things they want to accomplish with this new car, both the engine and aero package, is to make it easier to stay close and pass.
Make it
So
racier.
yeah, I mean, one of the big problems now with the hybrid system overall is it added that extra weight. And when you're following behind someone closely and they take the air off the front tires and other things that happen, the tires heat up more. And so then you have to back off
Hmm.
and let your tires cool before you can make another shot at trying to pass. So they're trying to clean all that up and make this so you can just tuck in behind someone, then make the pass. The other thing we're looking at is we're looking at a significant increase in overall horsepower available in these engines. Right now, when they run the hybrid system, they're running about 735 horsepower overall. And then when you hit the push to pass, it gets maybe, close to 790, 800 horsepower.
Hmm.
Um, this engine, the 2.4 liter, I'd be shocked if the gas engine alone doesn't make close to 800 horsepower. And I
Okay.
think when you add the push to pass, we're going to be at 900 horsepower overall on this engine and
Ooh,
probably around 400 to 450 pound-feet of torque, which, for a little 1,700-pound race car is a lot of oomph.
the
So
fastest racing on Earth, indeed.
yeah, it should lead to really good speeds. It should lead to a quicker acceleration. The other thing that reducing weight does is it reduces that overall inertia, so it improves braking performance as well. So maybe they can wait, another 10 feet before hitting the brakes hard at the end of the front straight at Road America. All
Sure.
that stuff comes into play. Weight is a huge thing when it comes to racing, and if they can strip 100 pounds off that car, that is significant, and it would really help the drivers from that standpoint.
So after all this research you've done today, IndyCar has always said, Dallara has always said, Chevy and Honda have always said that the goal is to make a car that promotes better racing.
Yeah.
Seems like we might have found something like that.
Well,
Obviously, we'll have to wait and see.
we're not going to know until we get it on the track, but all their objectives are in the right place, right? They
Excellent.
they know, they know why people are tuning in to watch IndyCar racing. They're tuning in to see drivers race wheel to wheel. They don't want to
Mhm.
put anything on this car that makes that harder, you know. And like the aero screen is a great example. The aero screen, when they put it on for good reason, right? I
Yep.
mean, driver
Huge
safety,
supporter of the Aero screen. It has saved lives.
it has saved lives. But when they first tacked it on, it created a lot of aerodynamic lift, the way the
Yep.
wind would come up and over, and then it would just create this lift. And so they made some adjustments to it in 2024, putting in some venting and other things to help reduce that. But with this integrated system, it should be even better. And here's another thing. A lot of people have asked me, well, why do they have an aero screen in Indy and a halo in Formula One? Why didn't IndyCar do the halo? And well, if you look at the F1 car, right, there's that bar right here in the middle.
Mhm.
You can't have that on an oval. It
No.
it really blocks the vision in a way that would make it impossible to see around those corners on an oval like Indy. So they went to the aero screen, which is an unobstructed 300 180 degree view. It still provides basically the same amount of protection as the halo with its bar, but it does it in a way that works for every venue on the series, not just, obviously F1 doesn't race on ovals, so
Yep.
they don't have to worry about that.
Yep. Works perfectly for their purposes, but not for ours. Now, all right, new car, racier. What does this do to our field of drivers?
Yeah, I mean, and this is the thing that you started out talking about, right? You're
Mhm.
getting McLaren's getting Dixon because McLaren knows they're 2027. Every team is going to be working to develop that car, right? They're
Mhm.
at some point they're going to get a car that they're going to be able to start testing with and using and all that stuff, and having an experienced driver who's done setup is going to be critical. So think about Will Power at
Yep.
Andretti, right? Think about Graham Rahal at RLL, and the people that they brought on over this past year, who were really experienced car, setup people.
I don't want to leave Felix Rosenquist out of this conversation as well, because he
Yeah.
is also a guy who is noted on teammates of his have said multiple times on the record that one thing that he does is give excellent feedback about the car. This also does, we've talked a lot about the integration of the hybrid and how it seemed like Alex Palou understood it more quickly And maybe
Mhm.
partially that was because he was a guy who raised his hand a lot. But Ganassi losing Dixon does kind of, it gives us an opportunity to see if that's true.
Yeah.
How
Well,
does Alex adjust to a new piece of material without the 24 season veteran helping him find those details?
and that also changes the dynamic maybe on that number nine, who you put in that number nine car. I
Sure.
mean, obviously, everyone right now is saying, well, the obvious choice is Lundgaard, right?
Yep. And it's
Because
certainly,
he's
that's
fast,
not a
he's a
bad
race
choice.
winner. All that. The question will be, how good is he at setting up a car?
Yep.
Because if you look at the other two drivers, you've got Alex, who clearly communicates well with
Yep.
his engineer, and then having a less experienced driver in the other car. It just
And
doesn't.
Kiffin, yeah.
Yeah, in Kiffin, it just doesn't seem like. I, I mean, I could see them trusting Alex
Yeah, of course.
and saying, let's do that. But if there were a senior driver available,
hmm You might want somebody. It is so funny how much this particular piece of it changes how good of a move this was for McLaren.
right,
Just focusing on the Indy 500, I don't know how good of a choice this was. But when you have Scott Dixon helping you develop the new car, working with
hmm
Pato to make sure that Pato understands this is a really great little piece that is going to
hmm
help McLaren a lot in the future, I think. And then, we've got a couple of, I think this also kind of sheds a little bit of light on, I don't think that the driver situation at Penske is in a lot of flux. I know that you do
right,
see comments online saying like, oh, is Scotty Mack in danger? There's a large contingent of people on Reddit who think that Roger's looking to dump Joseph. I don't get that, but okay, if,
right,
either way, having the two of them who have the experience that they do there, the guys Penske is looking at to potentially replace Joseph or Scotty years in the future are young. They're
right.
Indy Next drivers currently.
Yeah, they're
That's
not
not a good
bringing,
person to put into a car right now when you've got Joseph Newgarden, who is, a lot of wins that Joseph has picked up in the last few years. What he said afterward was got the car dialed in more and more at every pit stop. And he's able to do that because he communicates so well with his team and gives the right feedback about the car.
exactly. So I think you're right. We've joked occasionally about driver changes at Penske, but that's not going to happen. I think if anything, what happens is whoever they have a technical partnership with will see maybe a driver that they want to put them in to help develop. Now, the
Yeah.
interesting thing is I've seen some recent talk about that Chevy charter car not going to AJ Foyt, but maybe another Chevy team on the grid that Penske might also partner with.
Interesting. What
So
eventually Penske's just going to partner with all of the Chevy cars
Chevy
except
teams, yeah,
McLaren.
exactly.
It'll just be it'll just be McLaren versus Penske slash everyone.
Yeah, so we'll see. I can't remember if it was JHR or
Or
who it
Ed
was.
Carpenter, or
Yeah,
yeah.
but
There are options.
yeah, so that'll be interesting to see what happens. But those charter cars become very, very important next year, I think. Oh, look,
We've got a
there's
guest on the pod. Gizmo wants to
there's the
talk about
team
engines.
team radio mascot,
Absolutely. Gizmo's
Gizmo.
very excited about this new car and what it's going to do to the field.
That's great.
What more do you have to tell us about the new car?
Well, there's not much that we know about the new car other than, like the basic stats that I've said. We know it's going to be a 2.2 liter V6. We know that it's going to hopefully be 100 pounds lighter. We don't know a lot about, and we know it's going to have Firestone tires, right?
Yes.
There are a
Yes.
lot of details to fill in, obviously, between them. But one of the things that I would love to see in this new hybrid system
Hmm.
is a driver adjustable hybrid system. So not one where you just mash the button to get your push to pass and get your extra horsepower, but
Hmm.
a little dial on the thing where you could go drive modes to go, oh, I want to set it for quali mode. And it
Sure.
changes the mapping just a little bit so you get more, say, acceleration out of it. Or I want to put it in fuel save mode. And now it's really going to lean on the hybrid system more or whatever. I think that would be kind of a cool thing to allow teams to use the hybrid more strategically. Right
Yeah.
now, it's everybody's doing the same thing with it, right? They're
Hmm.
all kind of doing their regen at the same place and deployment at the same place and all this. And if there were a way they could use it more strategically, I think that would be pretty cool. So
That's such a great point. The best qualifiers that we've seen are ones where people are using the hybrid in different places. That's
yes.
when, in particular, oval qualifying gets really exciting when we see a slightly different strategy on the hybrid. I'm fairly certain we saw Renus VK qualify with a different hybrid utilization than everybody else at Indy, and that was really cool and
Yeah.
fun. Giving them more options and avenues to do that, I think, would definitely add a lot.
Yeah, so beyond just the push to pass. So I think
Yeah.
that would be good. The other thing I think that the new engine will do is not only be more powerful, but more fuel efficient.
Okay.
And with more fuel efficiency, you could see more race strategy come into play. Who's going to go long? Who's not? Who's going to
Sure.
try to turn this race into a two-stopper versus a three-stopper? So again, and giving people more control over that is really going to help. I think help the racing from a strategy standpoint and just make it more interesting.
As long as it's not too efficient.
No.
Because I love that fuel is the limiter in IndyCar in some ways, that it's
Yeah.
not just how far can your tires go, it's how far can you stretch a stint. So
Right.
I make it more efficient. I agree. I love anything that builds, but there's a little fine balance there.
Well,
We're on the tip of a needle. Do it
yeah,
right.
and the idea is it's not going to be like all of a sudden you're going to double the mileage or whatever. But
Mhm.
if someone can eke out one more lap,
Yep.
that can change the dynamic of a race, right?
100%.
So I think it's interesting. I think we're in for a really interesting 2028 season. Obviously, we're gonna see teething pains
Sure.
with it. So, we'll see engines blow up. We'll see hybrid systems fail. We'll see issues whenever you bring new technology in like that. What works in a wind tunnel may not work on a track with a 30 mile an hour crosswind, right?
Hmm.
So, all that stuff, when you get out of the lab and onto the track, we're going to learn a lot more. But what we're seeing right now on paper is a huge upgrade from where we are. And, you know, I I think that's a good thing because Indy is really moving in the right direction now. We're
Yeah.
seeing great fan engagement. What, 1.3 million viewers for the Mid-Ohio race? That was a 73% increase in viewership from the previous year. So they have huge incentive to get this right.
Yeah. What
And
a time to be promoting a racier car.
right. So, yeah, someone's going to be disappointed that a hybrid system fails at some point, or someone's going to be
Sure.
disappointed that, the engine, something in the internal of the engine blew up. But we're, we're going to have those teething pains. But I think the price or the gain we'll get from that price that's paid far outweighs staying where we are today.
That's fantastic. Well, look, I can't wait for the 2028 season to get my eyes on this. But we've got a lot of IndyCar between now and then, and we have all kinds of testing on this new chassis, these new engines, starting in just a couple of weeks. So hopefully we'll be able to bring you guys an update on this about what we've seen and whether or not they're making their way toward that goal of a racier, more well integrated car that combines all of these little pieces that have been Frankensteined on to our current Dallara chassis and made them one single unit.
Yep. So I'm excited and looking forward to seeing what we learn. So for Rides and Drives Team Radio, I'm Harvey. She's Kaz. We're out.
Drive safe, everybody.